Hi. Mike, we're recording.
I think he's aware.
Hello.
Mike's our sponsored backdrop for the day.
Before it becomes an actual... No, you're just going to keep it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
might as well.
Before we completely sell out.
Why do we pick the worst sponsors?
That's absolutely terrible.
That's not. That's
You're
not,
welcome.
That's a dry drink. Like,
Yeah, it's fucking gross,
It's
dude.
dehydrating.
LaCroix is disgusting. I don't know
Yeah.
why you drink it.
It's not selling out. It's just torture.
Yeah, it's bad.
We would need to get money for it to be selling out.
Who
So
wants to give us money for that?
today I thought we'd talk about it's the 80th anniversary of Superman. Action Comics 1000 came out, which is fucking bonkers, I think.
Yep. It's the first American comic to hit issue number 1000.
It seems weird to me that it's only at 1,000.
Yeah?
It seems like it should be more than that.
What? Since the 40s, once a month? No,
I have no-
38.
38?
38, yeah, sorry. I round up.
It's 5 a.m. I can't do math.
It's alright.
That
And
doesn't
especially
seem
like,
right.
they've also started in 2016, they started double publishing Action
Yeah, twice.
just to reach the 80th anniversary,
We're
correct?
just going to stand the whole time. Do you want a chair?
It's
okay.
fine.
Been sitting all night.
Mike's good.
It's true.
He has very strong legs. Sick. So I figured we'd either talk about Superman, and I was thinking to talk about why we don't have characters now that are as iconic as that.
Like why we don't have new characters coming out that are as
That thing like are even
such
like
cultural touchstones.
yeah, even
as
like potentially iconic. And I think like the biggest issue, like even to like start right off the bat, like an issue with what I'm saying is that maybe we're too close to new things being created for those to become iconic. Like Superman probably wasn't iconic
Yeah.
like a year after he came out.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or you know, he even might have been like he was. That is like considered the first like superhero comic.
Yeah.
Like
I think it might have been, but I don't know. I don't have the facts one way or another that like I don't know how like what the timeline for his like popularity ramping up was.
It was
Yeah.
really popular when it started. I just watched a documentary about how when Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created it.
oh, then why are we talking?
I don't know. Well, just like you said, there was nothing else like it at the time. It was totally new, and it just happened to come out at the right time when people needed something like that, and it just took off.
I think,
Go
ahead.
No, well, and I was just going to say, like, Batman was the exact opposite of Superman, and that's why he took off. Because, like, they wanted something that would oppose
yeah.
him.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
Cool.
Oh no, I think I remember. I think like part of the reason is like what you're saying, like there was nothing like that out, and right now, like in terms of superheroes, anything that is debuted is going to be like a drop in the bucket, as
Yeah.
opposed to like this is a totally new thing. I think there are still things that like go viral, you know, things that like really do like take off immediately. But I don't know, we like briefly talked about this earlier, and I was saying like I feel like we're in a place culturally, like I don't know, as a nation, as a world, where it's less media is consumed less as like here's the popular thing. We don't have like those cultural touchstones because we are more diversified, and I don't feel like there's a sense of like here's one culture. There's always like I don't know, like pop music or pop, like what's the highest grossing thing, but we're much more like everyone's seeking their individual experience and like what appeals to them. And you don't have to just be like, oh, here's like the 5 comics that are out. I need to choose from those 5. And
Yeah.
okay, Superman's the only good one, you know,
Yeah.
or like Superman and Batman are the two. Which one of those two opposite things
Yeah, now it's
do
like,
I choose from?
Now it's like 50. Like,
Right,
which-
exactly. It's
Well, DC was publishing like 52 weekly comics as part of the 50. You know, now years ago. It seems like it wasn't years ago, but they've had 2 reboots since then. But
Yeah.
and I get.
But it's like even well, like you know, you can be choosing like within DC, like there are a million choices, and then
Yeah.
it's like okay, there's Marvel, and then there's a million independent comics, and like you aren't forced to choose. Like I made the comparison earlier. It's like people don't like all go home from school and watch the Howdy Doody show now. You know, like you go home from school and
and I
watch, like,
violently disagreed with you.
right? You know, you go home from school and watch like whatever you want, like whether it's on TV or then you go on YouTube or you go on Netflix or like we're not as bound as
Yeah.
like what's available.
I think there's so many people like even just creating content like that people aren't even necessarily going home and like consuming other people's content. They're going home and just creating their own content
right, yeah.
as a form of like entertainment. But I mean, I agree with all that. I think it's also that there's so much being made, and there's a lot of, culture now is just meant to be like quickly consumed and then it goes away. And if it's lucky, it becomes a trend
Yeah.
or like the hot new thing.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about, we were talking about the hotel for the trailer for Hotel Artemis yesterday, and I thought it was a John Wick spinoff or a sequel.
Oh yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Because now, like, so many action movies just look like John Wick now because that's what's popular. But, in a year when that goes away, it'll then drop in the bucket. And I think a lot of things aren't becoming iconic. I think the most they could hope for is they become cult sensations. Like, of smaller comics, like Tom King just did a Vision miniseries for Marvel, like, a year or two back. And Vision's not going to become iconic. But I think that run of Vision can become iconic because it was so...
Yeah, I wouldn't say the most you could hope for is like cult popularity. I feel like it's going like one of two routes, like, and creators even are sort of choosing where to aim themselves. It's either going to be like, oh, this is going to be a cult hit, or like a small group of people super into it, or like this will become momentarily popular. Where it's like I would say like the Marvel movies fall into that. I don't think there are any like there is any one of the MCU films that's like, oh, that was the one that's amazing and everyone's going to go back to. But it's like,
Ant-Man.
yeah, things came.
I was sincere. I love that movie.
Things
Not
came
Ant-Man.
out and it was like, oh, these are really great, and like everyone was into it like that year, and then we moved on to the next thing.
I don't think any of the MCU films have like staying power, like a Star Wars or like.
I mean, I think that they'll
Civil
continue to be considered like, oh, those were good and those were enjoyable, but I don't think any one, because they aren't one entity. There's how many of them are there now?
18?
18.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
so I don't think there's any one of those 18 that people are going to be like, that was the one. Like, that was a great
I'm gonna argue about that. on
thing
one.
that takes off. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Winter Soldier and Civil War alone, like those are two of the arguably the best out of the whole MCU. Just like the Winter Soldier by itself, like just for the story, and then I feel like Civil War for like just the setup, the major setup that it had for where we are now in MCU, and just like that big climactic battle
Yeah.
alone is so memorable.
But I mean, you even said, like, for where we are now in the MCU, do you think in 10 years, in 2028, people will be like, oh yeah, like Winter Soldier, that had a big cultural impact?
That's different. I mean, we don't know where the MCU is going to be at by
That's
then.
what I'm saying. That's
Right,
why I
but
think
that's what I mean,
it's such a
yeah.
problem to like discuss. Why don't we have icons anymore?
This is why
Or-
it's so problematic to discuss the thing that I want to discuss.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I think it's. I did want to talk about it, but I think
Yeah.
part of talking about it is like just like exploring like why. And I think a lot of the icons we've had. Superman's an 80-year-old property now, and it's still so popular. His logo is one of the most recognizable symbols like across the world.
Along with Batman and Spider-Man.
I think it was like there was a list of like the top 10 most recognizable icons, and it was like Superman's logo,
Like McDonald's
like
arches.
the McDonald's arches, the Coca-Cola logo, and like the cross. You know what I mean?
Are we talking
Yeah.
about outside of? I was just talking about superheroes.
I was like,
no,
like the
yeah.
world, just like
Yeah.
icon. I like just like really
Any symbol that's
any symbol.
recognizable.
And I do think part of it is just being too close to things coming out because, even thinking about the 90s, which is going to be like, 30 years ago, like, I'm trying to think of anything iconic that came out of the 90s. Like, either superhero-wise, like a new superhero from the 90s that became like an icon, or even, as I was talking about last Halloween, I had a whole feature about why we don't have any more iconic slashers. Like, there's Freddy, Michael, Jason, and I think like the Ghostface Killer from Scream is like the only icon that has come out.
Yeah, by slashers, do you mean like franchises or by like villains?
Like franchise.
Okay.
Like,
And when you say Ghostface Killer, do you mean Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang or?
yeah.
Sorry, I just.
I do give you a lot of points for making a Wu-Tang reference. I'm very proud of you.
To be
He was
fair,
on Colbert last night, and I was like, I feel too white to be watching this.
I did just see a picture that he and Method Man took with James Comey. So
Yeah, they were on the same episode as
yeah,
him.
that's probably
Oh,
where
that's
they
cool.
took the picture.
Wu-Tang's for everybody.
It was
Wu-Tang's for the children.
it was really good because they're did you hear the whole thing about like why they were
Yeah,
on?
they're trying
They're-
to get the record back from the State Department,
Yeah,
right?
that
Yeah.
album that they sold one.
Yeah, and that
Copy
fucking
of-
Farmadouche.
What
bought
if,
Right,
it.
it
what if
went to-
Jeff
it went to
Sessions
Shkreli.
listens to the...
That's what they.
Well, he
That's
was
what
like
fucking-
in charge of like releasing
Yeah.
that or not.
That's
they
what
wanted to release it.
TMZ was saying. They're like, what are the chances that Jeff Sessions has like listening parties in his
Yeah.
office?
It was really good.
An
Colbert
old
had,
dirty bastard's dead, so he could have that name.
They also
Kyle.
But
Anyway,
What were we
Superman.
talking about before
Sorry.
Superman was
I totally derailed that
I
conversation.
know, yeah.
It's okay. It was welcome.
So
Just
when you
discussing
fuck with
like
Wu-Tang.
how iconic Superman is and
You were talking about slashers.
slashers. Yeah,
You're talking about Ghostface, who you called Ghostface Killer, and that's how we got
yeah.
into it.
I had
Anyway.
Wu-Tang on the brain as well. But I think it's like even things that come out of the '90s, like Sonic's iconic. I would say,
Oh, Sonic, yeah.
yeah, Sonic's like. So, is it just like we need that like distance of time to like label things as iconic? Because I'm trying to think of things now, and like we're in such a weird like memification of our culture, and
Yeah.
things go by so quickly, or things just get like fucking like milkshake ducked out of
I think-
existence.
Yeah, what?
Are you familiar with Milkshake Duck?
What's Milkshake Duck?
It was Milkshake Duck was like a
Was
funny.
it like a cousin of Pizza Rat?
It was like a funny like onion type article where it was like saying how things become problem like where's that guy Ken Bone, the guy that wore the sweater
Oh,
to the one
yeah,
debate
yeah.
or like and like then
yeah.
people like the
Yeah.
next day it was like, oh, we went through his like Reddit forums and found all this
Mm-hmm.
weird shit. The Milkshake Duck thing was saying it's dangerous to make things like very innocuous popular because they're not going to stand up to the scrutiny of like public acceptance.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like, look at this duck that enjoys milkshakes. Then it was like, the next day it's like, milkshake duck says like racist thing.
Oh, yeah.
It just like, so it's like milkshake duck.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, it's like kind of like this like memification of our culture where we consume things so quickly and then they're gone after a week. Like,
Yeah.
is it impossible to make things an icon now just because like they're taken in so quickly, used by everything, and then quickly forgotten and like reviled?
Well, it depends. As we learned today, Cash Me Outside Girl is a freaking Billboard nominee. Like, that all started out as like a stupid viral meme.
I refuse to learn her name.
Yeah, it started
Because
as,
if I do, she becomes a person
She
in my mind. She
If
becomes
you
a
learn
person.
her name,
Yeah.
she wins.
Yeah.
And so do the terrorists.
But it just seems like it's all the horrible things that keep going and all the good stuff that just kind of fizzles out, in my opinion anyway. Like,
Yeah.
Like that.
I had a point to make, but I
Sorry.
forgot it by the time you finished like saying what you were saying.
Yeah, Milkshake Duck and then Catch Me Outside Girl.
Yeah.
Have you listened to her music?
No,
I
I
have-
refuse.
out of morbid curiosity, I've listened to one of her
You
songs.
won't learn her name, but you listen to her songs.
I did, and it's awful.
No shit.
It's like anti-music.
I'm
It's
gonna,
like it's like how Darkseid has like the anti-life equation.
Yeah.
It's like she makes anti-music.
I think the only reason that she got a nominee is because people were just, like you said, morbidly curious if they listened to the music. And by doing that,
well, it
she
was like
sold records.
Right,
and,
it was
and
like a
ended up,
best-selling thing, not like a
yeah.
good thing. It wasn't quality
But
based.
again,
it was
like I said
quantity.
before, she's in a category with Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. If I was either one of them, I would fucking kill myself. Like, you fucking kidding me?
I'd be very upset at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be upset at society.
Yeah,
I'm
Right.
always upset at society, so, whatever.
No.
I found my point again and I forgot it again. Guys, we can't record this late
We
and
need to-
without notes.
We need to edit you out of all these episodes.
Pretty much, I'll just
All
like...
two.
I do want to go back and argue with you on something, Kyle. It's, you kind of said that Vision wasn't iconic, and I know you're talking about the comic run, but I would argue that now, because of the movies, he is a little bit more iconic. I would compare like the comic run maybe to like the Moon Knight run that came out at the same time. As even though it was spectacular, it still got canceled because nobody outside the comic books really knows or gives a shit about Moon Knight, and they're never going to do anything with him like live action media wise. So
Yeah,
I think they
would
will
say
eventually.
That's not...
I mean,
They
it's,
have to.
I
it
don't-
will. It's a ways down, but I feel like
If
sorry.
Wizard can get a live action representation, anyone can.
I wouldn't say that has put Vision at the status of iconic. I would say it bumps him up to the like recognizable or like in the sort of cultural zeitgeist level where it's just like it's not like he's iconic, like everyone knows who Vision is,
Right.
but there's just enough recognizability
But
that
I would say-
people would be like, oh, Vision, I remember
But I
seeing
wonder in
him
another
in a
10
movie,
years
so.
if they don't kill him in Infinity War, which they will kill him in Infinity
Well,
War.
they're gonna rip the stone out
Yeah.
of his head.
Well,
I wonder because if you think like it's weird to think now, Iron Man 10 years ago, outside of like comic fans, wasn't popular.
No,
He was a
nobody
C level character, and that's
Yeah.
why Marvel got to
Rightfully
make him a
so.
movie.
That's why nobody wanted to buy it. But like, You know, if I had only seen the Marvel movies and I go into a comic book store and the only two books I see are Vision and Moon Knight, I'm going to pick up Vision because I recognize them from the movies. I'm just saying.
And you're wrong to do that.
I'm just saying, super
but I know,
hypothetical.
yeah.
Never having read a comic before,
Right, I know
only
what you're
having
saying.
seen the movies,
Yeah.
and those are the only two options in front of me. I'm going to go with the one that I've seen before. It's like, oh, hey, that's Vision.
Yeah.
I've seen him, wreck shit in the movie.
I think we should start sponsoring Mike every episode.
I think that's a great idea.
Billboard.
Oh, can I go on a tangent?
Yeah.
I'm not drinking fucking LaCroix. I
Okay, no,
refuse.
that's not it. But yeah, so okay, if you're not doing that, then you have to agree to this. We were talking about this earlier. If we all agreed to get tattoos, but we got to pick each other's.
No.
So I'm picking one for Mike, Mike's picking one for Kyle, Kyle's picking one for me.
Aaron, yeah.
But I actually immediately want to go back on that because Kyle wants Jay Baruchel tattooed in my armpit. And I'm
Oh, let's do it. I've changed my mind.
Instead of shaking, just walk up to people and go, "Eh," which is what he sounds like in my mind.
Well,
sounds
in
like
real
a-
life, too.
Okay, Mike, you're getting I can't decide exactly what yet, but it's going to be a full chest piece, and it's going to be Achievement Hunter based. Might just be the logo, just
I'm okay. I'm not okay with the full chest piece, but I'm okay with the logo. I don't know what I'd have to. Kyle's gonna get a lacrosse tattooed on his cheek.
we can combine these ideas, and you're just going to get Bing on your forehead.
Get a tattoo of a corporation's logo. If that corporation would then sponsor you and give you free product.
That'd be great.
I feel
Because
like
I thought
that'd be
years
awesome.
ago when I worked at the video store, I was considering getting a Criterion tattoo, and I'm like, I wonder if I get a Criterion Collection tattoo if they'll send me free movies.
I bet
And
they
then,
wouldn't.
and no, they don't, because I saw a guy that did that exact thing, and I think he named his son's middle name Criterion,
Nice.
and they're just like, okay, and then it was just
Congratulations.
it was ridiculed for 1,300
Yeah.
responses.
I feel like you could get that if you went to the right. I don't think corporation you could do it. I feel like you could find, if you found that right category of famousness, you could get someone behind, someone who has money but who isn't huge.
I don't think that any corporation or group would ever agree to that because the second one person does it, everybody's going to do it and expect something. I don't know.
We're getting to the cutoff time for a YouTube video here.
Oh shit! There's a cutoff time.
There is.
Oh,
Because we don't get monetized. Actually, no one
Okay,
gets monetized.
Mike, what
until
would you tattoo on Kyle?
I just said LaCroix hand
LaCroix? Oh,
on
okay.
his forehead
What
or
would you
his cheek.
tattoo on Mike?
Achievement Hunter chest piece.
Okay. And you get is Jay Baruchel in your armpit or Werner Herzog?
Oh,
Yeah, on my
wait.
thigh, yeah.
I changed mine for Kyle.
Okay.
Do it.
Wham.
Oh, you go away on chest piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be
Now
the
we're just
arms,
such a-
and it'd say wake me up. Then this would be before you go.
But then on the back of this elbow, it also
Jitterbug?
says, no, it says inside. So it's an Evanescence tattoo on this arm. But if you combine them, it becomes Wham.
Makes sense. All right.
Okay, I wasn't behind this
Final
idea
bit before we
beforehand.
go. Speaking of Superman and iconic and his birthday, the red trunks are back. So I thought it would only be fitting.
You keep saying trunks. Oh
Yeah.
no, briefs. Oh,
Brief, yes.
Kyle.
Wait. I got this.
Oh no.
Hey.
This could only
You're
end a
gonna step
disaster.
back.
I'm not comfortable with the level of costuming that we're doing in this episode that we're setting up for future.
Guys, this is already a mistake. I feel like these are painted on.
I'm watching this happen and I can confirm it is a mistake. Oh dear.
Alright. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of Sleepy Nerds
I am
podcast.
deeply
Kyle's losing
uncomfortable.
feeling in his legs. Kyle,
Bye, guys.
Don't touch my face while you're wearing those.